We recommend viewer discretion before we begin. This is for education and pleasure only. Inner City Press published actual federal courtroom testimony from the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Wendy Williams, the queen of hot issues, the one they attempted to muzzle, has finally testified in federal court after decades of rumors, suspicions, and industry outrage. Her testimony goes beyond Diddy. In hip-hop and entertainment, protection, silence, and systemic abuse occur. From Jay-Z to R. From radio blackballing to NDAs, Wendy brought dates, quotations, and scary memories to Kelly. Not a tabloid segment. This deposition was shocking. Sworn in front of everyone. She discussed Diddy, Jay-Z, and their twisted relationship. It might destroy an industry. Wendy Williams turned the courtroom into her purple chair, buckle up. Wendy Williams entered the courtroom without a celebrity aura. It felt like someone who had been buried alive and risen to tell the truth. She wasn't into publicity. Drama wasn't her thing. She was here because the media sued, threatened, blackballed, and mocked her for years. All her cautions and rumors on her old radio show were now part of a government probe. She sat, gazed at the jurors, and adjusted her microphone slowly. I was neat. I was never bitter. I never lied. I arrived early. Wendy immediately reminded the court of her purpose: to testify under oath about Sean Diddy Combs' long-alleged threats, cover-ups, and habits. She stated, I wasn't trying to degrade Diddy when I started talking about him. I wanted to wake people. She presented a stack of papers, printouts of previous show transcripts, executive emails, and a timeline of everything Diddy allegedly did to shut her down to the court. She began in the early 2000s. He was safe. Everybody knew. Your phone would ring an hour after you said puff. She described station administrators warning her, advertisers leaving her show, and subtle but clear threats. Wendy, overdoing it. People said Wendy would get wounded. She said a Diddy sent girl trio chased her out of her radio station. Total. They arrived outside my building mere hours after I indicated they were broke. That's coordination, not chance. Wendy compared her career to battle. When I uncovered Diddy's parties or how he handled his musicians, my world collapsed. A sponsor, syndication arrangement, and network invite were gone, but she persisted. You can threaten and blackball me, but not erase me. Now that I'm under oath, I hope they're listening because I won't stop until the truth shuts down their machine. Wendy's tone increased when the prosecution asked about Diddy's culture and she turned to Jay-Z, whom she had long warned about. You can't talk about Diddy's abuse without talking about the folks who stood next to him and grinned. Including Jay-Z. Wendy leaned closer after scanning the jurors. Remember Foxy Brown? She was 15. Jay-Z was 27. He accompanied her everywhere. She used Foxy's debut album lyrics. Supposed Jay-Z songs. No number like mine. No one can fuck me better. Her reading was loud. Deliberately. The court retreated. Tell me. She continued. What made a grown man write lyrics for a child? She shared industry-only details. Jay allegedly picked Foxy up from high school, costly presents, shopping sprees, and hair appointments financed by a man almost twice her age. Not a label signing. This was grooming. Wendy dropped an even darker tape. A cassette rumor persisted for years. Foxy, Jay-Z, Jamie Foxx. It was never mentioned again? Why? Because Foxy's home was burglarized abruptly. The tape? Gone. She let the words linger. Coincidence? I doubt it. Wendy claims she was dismissed from her top radio show after proposing Jay-Z's underage female relationships be examined. Branded me toxic, but now you see my requests were worthwhile. She was asked for proof by the prosecution. Wendy nods. Email, phone log, producers who left my show after I mentioned Jay. She testified that Jay-Z's crew quietly contacted industry insiders to remove Foxy critics. They made me evil. For asking what any respectable person would have asked, she said. Then she addressed the jurors. Do you believe my mess cost me sponsors? My sponsors left because I was right and they couldn't publicize it. Wendy next described the part nobody wanted to believe, which labeled her a liar, loudmouth, and worse. She told the court I said it first. They weren't parties. These were operations. She meant the freak-offs, a term essential to Diddy's criminal prosecution. Wendy heard rumors about these occurrences in the late 1990s, when Bad Boy was at its peak. At the door, phones were taken. Visitors signed NDAs. Candles, escorts, cameras. Room assignments were made. The celebration wasn't at home. It was ritual. Karen, Superhead, Stevens told Wendy on air that Diddy invited her to one of these parties and requested male participation. Superhead was honest. She detailed everything. Paranoia, narcotics, and weird setups from Diddy. He worried she'd reveal him. Wendy leaned in again, and I broadcast the interview. The reality was too heavy to ignore, so I played it again. Men and women who had attended Diddy's parties and returned shaken told her similar things. Not just partying. They were instructed on what to wear, touch, and enter. Wendy testified that she had spoken with 3 people who described 4 bags being used to recuperate from parties, as the indictment states. They said medical assistants were ready. This was not socializing. This was organized evil. Her pseudonym-only collection of private testimonials was presented. Court was surprised. These incidents matched Cassie Ventura, Gene Deal, and other witnesses' patterns one by one. Wendy's words hit everyone hard. The baby oil? I joked on air, but it wasn't humorous. Like I indicated, they found over 1,000 bottles. You know why I knew? Because people told me and I was the only one willing to speak it. She gazed at Diddy from the chair, calm. Many years after. We've arrived. Now it's not gossip, it's evidence. As the courtroom grew more silent, Wendy Williams shifted focus to someone else she had been defending for years, Cassie Ventura. I said it back then, she declared, I's never leaving the jury. Y'all were mesmerized by the diamonds, the music videos, the red carpets, but I saw a scared girl. I saw imbalance, and I said it on the air, something about that relationship was off. Wendy testified that she had tried to warn her listeners as early as 2008 about the obsessive control Diddy allegedly had over Cassie. She was 19. He was pushing 40. That's not love. That's leverage. Wendy explained how the mogul's lifestyle, jets, private security, industry pull, made it nearly impossible for Cassie to leave. I said it then, and I'll say it now. She didn't need a boyfriend. She needed a bodyguard. She reminded the courtroom of a clip she played on her show years ago, where Cassie looked down during an interview and flinched when Diddy raised his voice. People called it nerves. I called it trauma. But nobody listened. The prosecution then entered into evidence a timeline of Wendy's broadcasts that paralleled Cassie's legal claims. I was told Diddy had access to her phones, that he'd show up at hotels unannounced, that he'd get staff to unlock her doors. She paused. And when I said that out loud, my show sponsors pulled the plug. Wendy then referenced a 2018 incident, the one where Cassie reportedly ended the relationship after Diddy allegedly forced his way into her home. That's not the first time he showed up uninvited. Wendy testified, people don't understand. When a mogul wants control, they don't need permission. They make the world rearrange itself for them. She gave the court a chilling breakdown of how these mogul dynamics play out: grooming, isolating, leveraging industry influence, and forcing the illusion of luxury as a means of obedience. He didn't just love Cassie, he owned her, and when she broke the chain, she became dangerous. Wendy ended this part of her testimony by saying, everything in that lawsuit, I saw the sign. I said it publicly, and now she's finally being heard. But at what cost? Wendy adjusted her mic again. Her voice didn't tremble, but it slowed. You don't get to talk about men like Diddy and walk away clean. I knew that, but I didn't realize how deep it would go until it happened. She testified that in 2004, at the peak of her radio dominance, she received a message from a record label executive. Stop talking about Puff or else. Wendy did not flinch. She persisted. The following week, she lost her afternoon slot. They never denied it was about him. She called it punishment. Wendy said she had heard from various sources that Diddy had made strategic calls to label heads, promoters, and radio networks to urge them to stay away from her. She remembered a program director saying, "You went too far. You poked the wrong bear." She said Total almost attacked her in front of her studio after she labeled them washed up and broke on broadcast. You think they showed up randomly? The number sent? Wendy vividly described the moment. Fans pressed against radio station lobby glass. Waiting in a car was her boyfriend. The intern panicked. That was more than a fight. Was a message. We can reach you. She said she was barred from BT events, denied media passes, and lost advertising opportunities. Fully coordinated. Diddy wanted more than to stop me. His goal was to erase me. She presented actual correspondence from bad boy PR agencies distancing themselves from her platform. The customer instructed us to stop hiring talent on Wendy Williams' show. That client? Wendy announced Sean Combs, holding the page. She said I wasn't the first blackballed, but I was one of the few who spoke out. She faced the jury again. That's his job. Speak and lose everything. Your mic, money, name. I didn't quit. Through the hush, I spoke. So here I am. Wendy paused before recalling a bizarre moment. Hip-hop was really homosexual back then. She began. Recalling her words. Jay-Z in their nightlife. People called it chatter, now the government calls it evidence. Wendy then recalled her 2009 discussion with former bad boy musician Mark Curry, who had just written Dancing with the Devil. He called Diddy the ruinous shadow. I concurred. That interview vanished from the radio station's archives. She told the court that she received emails, threats, and FCC complaints whenever she included industry critics like Superhead, Gene Deal, and Jaguar Wright. They tried every method to silence me. The court noticed what she dropped. Everyone in the industry knew the unwritten list. List of persons you couldn't discuss. I paid for breaking that rule. Hot issues segments were regularly reported for review, she said. That talent reps threatened show producers and executives advised her off the record to back off. They warned I would ruin it for them, the station, and myself. She paused. This is all messed up now that the truth is out. This part ended with Wendy's voice lowering. Trial is not the start. Cover-up ends. The jury should know I've been warning about this for 20 years. Finally, you heard it. Wendy's tone sharpened and became more precise when she gazed back at the courtroom. Think it's just Diddy? She looked at the jury and stated, you're wrong. This is about his protective ecology. That includes names you shouldn't hear in court. A courtroom silence descended over Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey. The prosecution asked her to explain, and she answered brutally. Hollywood has a list. None will appear. None you'll keep. It's real. Avoid crossing these people. You disappear if you do. Wendy described her radio portions, in which she exposed Diddy's parties and manipulation and Tyler Perry's alleged blackmail. I had sources. Real one. Producers. Agents. Wendy, your name is being spread, they told me. They forbid certain topics. Described as unsteady. She said her industry access disintegrated after her dispute with the Precious team, a film Perry and Oprah were significantly involved in. I went from premiere invitations to being dropped. One executive informed me Oprah's team don't want you around. Diddy was protected by that power. A horrific tale followed. Wendy said that she told Oprah about her abuse only once. She said she respected me and wouldn't use that narrative. After that, my abuser was interviewed on her show while I was blackballed, she said. Not only betrayal, but retribution. The jurors was astonished as Wendy revealed it. With him, they smiled. Photographs were taken. They supported Diddy while we were destroyed for speaking up. I know why. They needed him. For bargains. For reach. For quiet. She showed an email unintentionally given to her from a PR firm handling Perry's studio and a Bad Boy brand's crisis communication. Subject line? Optics management. Wendy. Puff. Tyler, that was all it stated and she needed. Wendy faced forward. These stars aren't alone. A machine that thrives on stillness and destroys those who break the curtain, they are. With every word Wendy said, the courtroom grew tense. Prosecutors termed it a turning point. Wendy took a heavy file folder. She tapped the cover and stated it had NDA email threads. And internal memos never meant to be published. She explained that she got them from industry acquaintances who had left the game, not hackers. They were sick of women disappearing and truth being called rumor. Wendy read a 2007 NDA. Name redacted. The language? Ominous. Subject undertakes not to divulge private meetings, recordings, or interactions with Sean Combs, his guests, or colleagues. Violating this agreement may result in financial penalties and public punishment. She smashed the paper. Public retribution. It was that deep. Next, she read a premium hotel chain's internal correspondence. We prepared the presidential suite. With extra bedding, lights, and discretion measures as asked. Mr. Combs' helper will set things before guests come. That email's date? 2015, Cassie stayed with Diddy. Think it was celebrity partying? Wendy asks. This system has numbers. This was planned. Funded, planned, and cleaned. She showed payments to publicists, talent managers, and bloggers to manipulate the narrative. A writer was told to write about Diddy's philanthropy rather than recent reports in one email. A snapshot was shown to the jury by prosecutors. Diddy, Tyler Perry, and a crisis sweep media strategist at a 2019 gala. They were smiling, Wendy said, smiling while women were getting paid to shut up and others were getting destroyed for not signing. She told the court that she too was offered an NDA. They wanted to shut me up and said I could have a syndicated TV deal if I agreed to move on from the topics I was covering. I said no and I paid the price. The jury was silent as Wendy concluded the silence they bought cost others their freedom, peace, and truth. And now it's Wendy Williams didn't cry or break down when she finished her testimony. She just sat with the weight of 2 decades of warning the world and being ignored. Was he tried? She said calmly, but I see something bigger. He did what he did, but who let him? She pointed to one man on the defensive table. But he leaves a legacy of quiet, terror, NDAs, power plays, party invitations, and billion-dollar handshakes. She then addressed the jury, and that tower crushed everyone who spoke. She told the court that while Diddy was accused, Jay-Z, Perry, Oprah, the labels, and the managers had sat quietly for years, some even witnessing the abuse. They shook his hand. They confiscated his checks and evicted everyone who asked questions. Wendy ended her testimony with her radio show's famed voice. Direct, unfiltered command. Was called bitter. I was right despite being called crazy. I'd rather be right in hell than silent in heaven. She looked to Diddy, who had stayed calm during her testimony. You thought I left. Though you thought your power was enough, you now sit where the truth caught up to you. Hope it's loud. Wendy faced the gallery again before descending. Trial is not final. Eventually, people will name names, walls will crumble, and the tower will fall. She left immediately, not as a talk show presenter or gossip queen, but as a witness whose voice could no longer be denied.